Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's night-ending bonus upload. I hope everyone's day was blessed. Guys, I have an interview right now that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this night-ending bonus, shall we? Robert, how are you tonight?
I'm doing okay, Jeff.
I appreciate you coming back and sharing some more of your experiences. I guess we had talked a little bit about some things. I know one part that you're going to share, but I'm not familiar with the other completely. So instead of talking, I'm just going to shut up and turn the mic over to you, my friend.
Okay. I'm going to pick up where I left off after the house attack.
Sounds good.
And this is what I'm going to call the break-in. This happened in 1990, in the summer of 1990. Rascal was napping in front of the door in the foyer. I was fixing the channels on our satellite TV with my stepmom, my sister, and my girlfriend sitting on the couch. My grandfather was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee and eating a pimento sandwich. My dad was in the dining room doing something, and the front door suddenly flew open, smacking Rascal right on the rear end, and he stood up immediately. In the doorway was this real skinny guy who was nose to nose with Rascal. The guy immediately saw what Rascal was. He screamed like a little girl and turned to run. Rascal grabbed him by the seat of his pants, took his pants right off of him. The guy was butt naked down. He ran up the catalpa tree right in front of our house with his bare butt hanging out. Rascal sitting at the bottom of the tree with his pants in his mouth. Me and the girls were just staring at what just happened. My dad was, about that time, came through the doggone dining room saying, "What the hell is going on?" My grandfather just looks over and he says, "Hold on, I'm calling the sheriff." About that time, everybody was laughing, including me. In about a few minutes, here come the sheriff. He got out of the house in his new patrol car. He saw what was going on. He was grinning from ear to ear. He walks over to Rascal, takes the pants out of his mouth, and said, "Rascal, give me those." Then he turned to me and says, "Robert, take Rascal into the house." And I did. The sheriff turned around and said, "Okay, sunshine, it's all over. You can come on down now." And the guy did, and he put his pants on. The guy's scared half to death, white as a sheet. The sheriff put the cuffs on him, sat him in the back of the doggone squad car, and he says, "Son, you came to the wrong house to break in." He says, "Around here, we go to guard dogs really, really big." And the guy, he was just, when he saw Rascal walk bipedal with me, back into the house. I mean, he was just white as a ghost. And the latest that we heard from him, that he had changed his ways and became a preacher. And like, good Lord, we were all just laughing.
And he had been that guy, because I've heard this little bit of this. He had been
robbing other
houses
and beating up our neighbors.
Yeah, so he was not a friendly person.
No, he wasn't. I think Rascal changed him a little bit, though.
Yeah, I'd say.
My next encounter, this was in the late fall of 1994, about a month after the house attack. I was asleep in my bedroom with my black cat Stormy laying on the headboard of my bed. All day I've been feeling strange when I got home from work, and I had a severe headache, and I was constantly sick to my stomach, and I couldn't eat. So when I was laying there asleep in my bed, when I opened up my eyes, all of a sudden I found out I couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't speak. I looked up, and I saw on the ceiling was this shadow person type creature reaching down at me with white, like glossy white eyes. My cat Stormy's actually saw this, and he let out a loud meow type scream, and he jumped at the shadow person, clawing its arms, and the shadow person pulled its arm back, and it looked like there's black ink, black blood splattering all over the wall where Stormy had clawed this thing. Then all of a sudden, coming through the house at a deafening pace was Rascal. He burst into my darn bedroom. He saw what this thing was. He jumped on the bed, protecting me, and he let out a loud warning bark, and he started clawing this shadow person with more of the black blood splattering all along on the walls and the ceiling too. My grandpa and my dad quickly came into the room and turned on the lights, and this shadow person immediately went out of my room through the doggone window, and we never saw this thing again. Now, Rascal and Stormy, they both stood at the darn window guarding me all night long until about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. In the morning, Dad and Grandpa spread salt and holy water all the way around the house and said the Lord's Prayer. And we never had any shadow people come around anymore or nothing. Why this thing came into my room, I would not know, but it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And Grandpa explained to me that shadow people are kind of like the black-eyed children. They are evil demons, and they're part of the same classification. Now, I spent all day cleaning that smelly black blood off my walls and stuff. This is the only time I ever had trouble with shadow people. Because I never knew what the hell them things, and to this day, I still don't know what they are.
Right. Yeah, that's a definite kind of a freaky story right there.
Yeah. Now, on our family's 400 to 500 acre homestead, there's one or two Indian burial grounds, and to this day, I don't know where they're at. And back in my mind, I'm kind of wondering, did they come from there?
Could be. I mean, we don't know what they are. I mean, they obviously have some sort of demonic quality.
Yeah, this thing definitely did, because it scared me half to death. But it's like Stormy knew what it was, and he's just a black cat.
Right. And
he jumped at it. Here came Rascal. He definitely knew what it was, and he did go at it. And it was like Stormy and Rascal were taking turns swiping at this thing.
And there was a physical quality to it, which
yeah. But when Dad and Grandpa turned on the lights, I can't explain this. It transformed back into kind of like a black shadowy mist, and it took off through the window, and and we never saw it again.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, to me that's super creepy.
Yeah, that's very not settling. You know, it's just because they have a physical quality, and then to go back to kind of a
mist
spirit form or whatever you want to call it is only, it's just dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. All I can say is thank God for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it makes me wonder the way I was feeling when I got home or something. And I just felt strange. Like, was it targeting? I can only guess that it was targeting me for some reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you know, it's just crazy that, you know, Rascal being there. Obviously it's watched you. If it was targeting you, you know what I mean? That's a lot of you know, testicular fortitude on that shadow person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very creepy. And I think that your grandfather is right, that there probably is something to do, some sort of connection with the Native American burial ground out behind your home, you know, on that property. So.
Yeah, because Rascal, there's parts of my family's homestead where I guess where one of the burial grounds close to, because it's kind of close to Highway 70.
Okay.
And Rascal kept me away from it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he would push me out of the way from it.
Yeah.
He would lead me out, and so I'm like, okay, we won't go there.
Wow, that's very chilling.
Yeah. And I know people talk about this place in Mississippi, and it's called Purgatory Road. Well, I'm sorry to say this Purgatory Road ain't got nothing on Highway 70. Woohoo. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange places, you know.
Yeah.
And I think each state has their own, you know, has their own hot spots. Taylor, Mississippi is a hot spot, and the LBL is a hot spot. You know, they've all...
And it's not just for cryptids neither. That's the problem with the LBL. It's not just for cryptids. That's what makes it spooky.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on there. It's just you know, it's like the Hudson River Valley in New York. There's a lady named Linda Zimmerman that wrote a couple books, and you know, there's been cryptid sightings. There's satanic cults. There's UFO. There's any, you know, and it's something to do with. she had a really good theory, and it was something to do with like the magnetism or the, you know, whatever, the electromagnetic that this area had put out that draws all of this kind of just real bad energy, you know, including cryptids. When I say energy, I mean physical too, that to a location. And there are a lot of little spots like that throughout the country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what we're up to 1990 now, or 91 with Rascal?
Yeah. Well, we'll be getting into now the early patrols, which the earliest one was mine and Rascal's first patrol. It was in the summer of 1991.
Okay.
Because left the house on a Friday morning. It was a couple of days off for me. We were going around with my grandpa, going to check out the 10 cornfields, all the way down through the thick weeds along State Road 937 to State Road 453, going across the big creek and heading to that heads to the Cumberland River. We had patrolled all day long. We didn't see nothing. We had set up camp next to the creek where we could wash up and boil water for drinking water and stuff. Now, that night in the woods, everything surrounding the woods came real uncomfortable quiet. I laid up against Rascal, who was keeping watch. My grandpa, he was kind of like in a sitting position. He had gone to sleep. And that morning I went out and made coffee. Me and Rascal had breakfast, a few good sunfish and bass right along that of Grandpa. Just before the fog lifted out stepped this deer spirit. This is the second deer spirit we run into. Okay. It was long, brown, and thin, about 7 foot tall, with a long deer's head, but no antlers or horns. And it had a black soulless eyes and 3-fingered claw hands and two-toed hoof feet. It had black jagged teeth, and it just hissed at us. Immediately, Rascal charged at it, and the creature just screamed at him. Rascal stabbed it through the neck and stomach, and the deer spirit froze in place, and Rascal picked it up and body slammed it, snapping its neck, killing it. Well, me and Grandpa dragged it over in a hole next to the creek. We piled a bunch of wood and brush and everything else over it, and we set it on fire. That late afternoon, we put the fire out. Then we headed back slowly, patrolling the rest of the cornfields after we broke camp. And as both of us and Rascal were going through a field of sweet corn, we started noticing, especially Rascal started noticing, we had footsteps behind us. We stopped for about 30 minutes to listen. We heard heavy breathing and something coming closer. Rascal and I and Grandpa, we quietly moved out of the field to the electric fence and kind of hunkered down. As we did this, a huge 6-foot nasty looking Goatman came out of the doggone cornfield, and this thing had a mouth of razor teeth, looked like shark's teeth, and a 3-fingered claw hands and long hooves. Man, it was gray with what looked like mange, and it growled and came right at me and Grandpa. It wasn't even looking at Rascal, and Rascal was 9 foot tall, hit this thing head on, snapping its neck. And as he clotheslined it, like a wrestler clotheslines, yeah. And he killed that sucker in midair. And when the thing hit the ground, it broke both its horns off. Then we took this thing down to the doggone burning pile and we burned it.
Now, how big was that creature compared to Rascal? Let's say
the creature is about 6 foot tall.
Okay.
Rascal is 9 foot tall. Rascal towered over it.
So not a tremendous amount of fight for Rascal to take this thing out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, me, Grandpa, and Rascal, we went to the house, had 2 big old loads of sweet corn, and Grandpa turned around and said, "Guys, these things are getting closer to the house, and we have got to keep them away somehow."
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that was, ooh. The next patrol we went on to, this was during the fall. was in 1993. Our next door neighbor, who's a Cajun, he come from Louisiana. His name was Mr. Clinton. He was missing one of his prize hogs, and he came over and asked us if Rascal had got it. My grandpa said no, because that night that his hog went missing, Rascal was sleeping with me. And so that afternoon, we went over there at his house with our neighbor. We went to his barn in the back where the hog pen was, and in the back there's several huge dog-like prints, about 14 inches long and about 4 inches wide. Rascal and I tracked those prints to the 3 caves in back of our homestead. We found the hog's head at the entrance that was on the far side of the caves. Rascal went into the cave for about 2 hours and found nothing. He came back. Me and Grandpa was worried that this thing must have been a rogue dogman hunting and doing a territory run. And if this was so, we had to get this daggone rogue out of our doggone homestead, off our homestead immediately. Because this creature could cause trouble for everyone. So my grandpa slipped Rascal's razors on Rascal's hands real quick, and Rascal knew we were in trouble, because that night me, Grandpa, and Rascal, we stayed about 30 foot up in a grove of pine trees, watching for this rogue that never even came by. So in the morning, Grandpa went home and told me and Rascal to be real careful while we finished our patrol. And we did. So the rest of the day, me and Rascal, we didn't see a doggone thing. So late in the afternoon, we headed off for the cornfields as usual, heading home. As it got dark halfway through the cornfields, me and Rascal heard someone following us. And I thought it was Rascal. I thought it was Grandpa coming up there to join us. So as we headed up the fence line and headed back to the corner of the doggone cornfield, that's when we saw this huge gargoyle. I mean, this thing was black with red oval eyes and 4 ears, one set inside another. And this is what my dad and Grandpa calls a fake Dogman, because it had a baboon face with square teeth. This dang thing was I'd say about 7 foot tall, about 500 pounds. It saw us, came forward and growled at us. Rascal immediately stepped in front of me, but not before I turned. I shot that sucker twice in the chest. That gargoyle stood stunned, and Rascal lunged at it, ramming his claws and razors through its stomach, killing it.
Right.
Then we dragged it to the burning pile, which took 2 or 3 hours, and we burned it. By that time, it was 10 p.m. Me and Rascal got back to the house, and I told Grandpa, and he says that gargoyle was hunting both of us the whole time. And he told us we have got to be super careful when we go out on patrol like this on our homestead, because many of their cryptids are trying to take over because of the LBL.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, you had shared something with me a while ago when we first talked about, your backyard was the LBL. And so you really had to be careful and aware of things in your location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, I consider the LBL our backyard, but if you looked at our backyard, you go all the way back to the LBL, see, that's about a 10, 15 mile stretch. Because our homestead was really huge. Of course, we had people living around it and all that, and they were kind of like our neighbors, and it's like no big thing. But even they had problems with these doggone cryptids.
Right. Huh. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, these things were scary.
Yeah.
They really, really were.
Yeah, that was like I never heard. I've heard different. People have shared. Different kind of descriptions of creatures, and you really don't have a name for them. They're very, they're like the thing that your grandfather and dad called the fake Dogman, kind of. I mean, I've
Yeah.
heard of stories about those things. People have seen them in Tennessee, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they look very similar to a canine, but they have flat teeth,
Yeah.
and it's a very very creepy kind of. You
Yeah.
expect to see
Yeah.
canine teeth, but
Uh-huh. But
then
you got these flat square teeth.
yeah, it's very
And sometimes they're jagged, sometimes they're not.
huh, yeah, it's definitely something you don't want to run into.
No. Because this is what my grandfather calls, you know, super inbred, perverted Bigfoot.
Right.
That's what he describes a gargoyle. He says this is where Bigfoot has inbred so much down the generation line. This is why they sometimes have the juvenile Bigfoot capture like a lone female Dogman, a young one, take her back to their doggone camp to get their bloodline going.
Right. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
So, you've had a couple of these kind of trips with Rascal,
Yep.
and this was the first one.
Yeah, these are the first ones.
Okay. All right.
And well, my grandfather and dad have also told me about the marbles, white marbles and blue marbles. It's sort of like a peace offering or an act of friendship to Dogman.
Okay.
For people who see Dogman in their backyards and stuff and they get scared. Well, the white marble, believe it or not, this attracts the Dogman, and it lets them know once you put it on like on a fence post or at the edge of the property or edge of your property line. It lets them know that you're a friend and you're not a threat to them.
Right.
That you and your family are not a threat to them, and they'll usually leave you alone. Now, if there's vicious other cryptids around and there's a Dogman there,
Mm-hmm.
the Dogman's not really doing anything, but the other cryptids are. That's where you'll have a blue marble or a green marble. And you put that out on the edge of your property till the Dogman said to them, it's like, I'm your friend, please help. Get rid of these others. And the Dogman usually will. And at the same time, he will stay away from your family and your property.
Okay.
But if you don't want either of these cryptids, here's what you do. You get some salt and some holy water, put it all the way around the edge of your property, and say the Lord's Prayer, and all the cryptids will leave you alone.
Okay.
Because not many people know that. For me, I always take the safe route. I always say the Lord's Prayer, and I put down holy water and salt all the way around my property.
Yeah.
That's actually the way I do it. See, it's not harming any cryptids, whether they're friendly to you or not. So it's like it lets them know you just want peace and you want to be left alone, just like them.
Right. Okay.
Now this next encounter, oh boy, it happened It happened in the third week of November 1993 during Hunter's, what I called a Hunter's Moon incident. This encounter was the first day of the deer season.
Okay.
And in where I was living at, there's a bunch of us always get together and go to this hunting lodge for a Hunter's Moon festival and stuff. And it was close to Carsville, Kentucky, deep in the woods. Well, Dad told the hunters at the lodge they were in for a real nice treat because him and Dad were going to introduce Rascal to them. Now, me and my friend Tony had Rascal already with us, and of course, I had Dad's three-wheeler in the back of the truck, and we arrived there at the lodge late in the afternoon. Everybody was amazed when they saw Rascal walking bipedal behind me and Tony as we entered the lodge. About 6 p.m., everybody went into the deep woods hunting deer with me and Tony, and Rascal taking the lead. Now, later that night, it got real dark. I mean, we couldn't even see 5 inches in front of us. Now, each hunter there got a deer. Me and Tony, with Rascal's help, chased 2 deer, and we got them. But they slipped down a creek in the middle of this thick-ass woods. So we had to head down to the bottom of the hill. Tony and I started down that hill when all of a sudden this 6-foot thin deer spirit, this is the third and last one in my encounter, it dropped out of the trees. Now, how this thing climbed the trees, I don't know. But it dropped in front of us, 10 foot in front of us. Rascal leaped over us, and as a deer spirit screamed at us, Rascal hit this creature hard several times with his right fist. The deer spirit hit the ground. He hit that muddy ground real hard, but he got up and jumped back across about 60 feet away from us, knowing that he couldn't take on Rascal in a one-on-one fight. And Rascal jumped too, was hitting and slapping this thing, making it screaming pain and all. And at that time, me and Tony, we grabbed our deer, threw it in the back of that three-wheeler. We headed back to the lodge as Rascals chased this damn thing over the hill towards the Ohio River and stuff. Everybody back at the lodge heard this fight going on between Rascal and the deer spirit. 5-10 minutes later, after me and Tony got our deer and was bringing it back on that four-wheeler, Rascal caught up to us, checking me and Tony over real good, then went into a defensive circle as we got back to the lodge. Everybody met us back there and helped us unload our deer. Then I told everybody what happened. My grandpa and dad said, okay, everybody, reload, and they had me, Tony, and Rascal, who took the lead back to where this deer spirit was. Rascal led us over the doggone hill to an open field that was right along the Ohio River. The deer spirit's prints stopped in the middle of this field. I mean, just stopped. There's no sign of the creature, but the area felt real strange all the way around, which made our skin crawl. We split up in 2 groups, each group heading in the direction of the other along the riverbank. And we searched until about 10 o'clock at night. We didn't find anything with this doggone deer spirit. Only thing my grandpa figured out, he says this creature escaped through a portal to get away from Rascal. Now, I don't know much about portals, but my grandfather does, and he never will say anything about them.
Right.
And he said, and my dad said, well, there is a rumor of a deer spirit / Goatman raiding chicken coops nearby all week long. I mean, this is one of the creepiest encounters since the house attack that really has gave me nightmares.
Yeah, because just vanishing like that. Now let me ask you, because you had mentioned like the feeling that deer spirit gave you. Was it anything similar to the spirit, the feeling that the shadow person gave you? I mean, like, was there kind of like a connection, demon? You know what I mean? Like, did you kind of feel the same
In a
way
way, I'm gonna
around
have
it?
to say yes or no.
Okay.
With the shadow person, it was like an ancient evil.
Okay.
If you get my meaning.
Yeah.
This deer spirit was like a threatening evil. Like it was a creature, flesh and blood creature like Rascal,
Yeah.
but at the same time kind of spiritual too.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, was there? You guys didn't see the portal. You guys just like the
No, we
assumption was
kind of,
made.
well, we felt it because number one, all of our hair, electricity kind of, like static electricity,
Yeah.
our hair was literally standing up off our skin.
Okay.
And Rascal, boy, his hackles were already up. His eyes were blood red, and he was looking.
Okay.
He would walk around where those prints had ended,
Yeah.
but he would walk kind of sideways, and he would be looking up in the sky. I mean, we looked up, we didn't see nothing. No stars, no moon, no nothing.
Right.
Now, unless that thing jumped up and went through a portal, that would be my only thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been numerous like things reported coming out of portals, and I myself think that it's whatever comes out of there has nothing but bad intentions.
Yeah.
There was one of my favorite kind of stories about a portal is a guy is set up hunting by Skinwalker Ranch in the vicinity. He's not on the ranch, but he's very close to the ranch, and he's up on a hill kind of looking down, and he sees this kind of black hole open above the ground, 3 feet above the ground, 4 feet above the ground. He can see the landscape around this hole. This hole is just and he said that was the oddest part. I could see everything in front of me, and then this hole just appeared, and it was just black. And out dropped this creature that he cannot describe. He has no description of it. It was the most hideous creature known to man, is the way he put it. And it just took off running in an opposite direction, and he got up and took off in a different direction, and never went back to that area to hunt again.
Oh, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
See, this encounter was the only time, I'm going to say my only portal encounter, and I don't want to encounter any more portals. I don't. No. One was enough for me, and I didn't expect that.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something that I never want to witness. So, and I pray that I never get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So, what year we were in? 93. We got about a half an hour left if you want to keep going, or if you wanted to take a break. I know you're tired tonight or not really feeling great tonight from work. So I'm going to leave it up to you. With, we got about a half an hour left. If you want to keep going, you're more than welcome. Or if you'd like to take a break for the evening, and we can set up for another part 4 of this, or however you want to do it. I'm leaving it up to you.
Yeah, we can set up another part 4.
Okay. All right. I guess I got a couple questions I'd like to ask you,
sure.
To end this with. Now, when Rascal, here's a couple things that I'd like to clarify for some people. You had made mention of Rascal running down a road, and people had picked on that and said, how was he kept a secret if he's running down a road? That road was part of your family's property.
Yeah, it was part of my family's property.
Okay. Now, how long was the road, and can you give us kind of a description of this road?
The road was kind of like a dirt and red gravel road.
Okay.
It's about 10 to 15 miles long.
Okay. So
that connects up to 937.
Okay, so set up pretty far out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, it goes through our cornfields, and it's got a little bridge that goes over our creek, and then it goes into real heavy woods.
Okay.
To where there's a stop sign, and that's where State Road 937 is. What everybody calls the jump road.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to kind of clarify that for some people.
Yeah.
I had heard it, but other people apparently had not. I guess we've talked about Rascal a lot, but can you give us a description of Rascal? Like when you close your eyes, right from the top to bottom, what did he look like?
From top to bottom, the bottom part was he had huge, thick dog hocks. Like rear legs of a dog.
Yeah.
He was 9.5 foot tall, or 9.6 foot tall, 625 pounds. He had spongy, thick fur like hair all over him. He was jet black. And actually, to describe him perfectly would be, if anyone's ever seen Van Helsing and they saw the werewolf, that's what Rascal looked like, to a T. He had a beautiful big wolf's head. He had huge long ears, pointed at the top of his ears and rounded. He had four-fingered hands with a kind of like a short thumb. Well, actually a long thumb. His broad shoulders all the way to his chest is pretty much like a football player's, but the rest of him tapers down to like a runner's marathon. Okay. Now, he had double jointed hips. Now, when people say they hear a Dogman when they stand up, they say their hips pop. No, their hips do not pop. That's their feet setting to when they stand. Now, the bottom of Rascal's feet were soft dog pad top feet. His feet were kind of webbed. At the widest, his length of his feet were 14 inches. And his feet were 6 inches wide. His hands that were actually he had hair on top of his hands, but the palm of his hands and the bottom of his fingers were just gray skin, and that was very, very soft. Now his mane was on top of his head, went down his back, across his shoulders, and down his chest, kind of like a lion's. And that hair was very, very soft. He had a huge wolf-like bushy tail. He had his eyes, basically his eyes were a beautiful golden brown with a cat-like eyes. Now, his eyes, when he gets disturbed or angry, or if he's protecting one of us or our next door neighbors, his eyes will turn blood red, because this is like an emotional thing. His claws on his hands were 4 inches. His claws were retractable like a cat's. Now, I know everybody portrays pictures of dogs, man, with their claws always sticking out, but that's not always true.
Okay.
And my grandfather kept his claws and everything, and including his teeth, clean and manicured. Now, his teeth, the front teeth were more like a dog's. But the back teeth, they weren't square, but they were almost tapered like kind of like a shark's all together.
Mm-hmm.
That's his second line of teeth, because he had 2 lines of teeth, top and bottom. But as he grew older, that second line of teeth grew into the first line, so he had basically 1 line of teeth on top of 1 teeth and 1 line of teeth on bottom. And those teeth were very sharp.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Uh-huh. Now, Rascal, he was also telepathic.
Okay.
And since he has a double voice box, he knows he can speak some of our words, even though they're simple words. This, to me, proves to me that they're super intelligent. Pretty not close to us, but I'm going to say along the line of us.
Right.
And they also know how to use infrasound. Now, their infrasound is a little bit different from Bigfoot's, because Bigfoot will use infrasound to freeze their prey, to paralyze their prey. And Dogman, they'll use infrasound to reach out to other dogmen to get their bearings, to search for prey.
Huh.
And they also use it as a defensive measure against other cryptids.
Right.
And they also have a whistle bark. I cannot describe this whistle bark, but Rascals use it several times to break Bigfoot's infrasound attack.
Now, how did that work out? Like, I mean, was it just like can you explain? Can you kind of give us for instance?
Well, for instance, what happened to me during when I was me and Rascal actually got a little bit separated from a hunting thing, which I'll go into next fully into the next podcast, next interview.
Okay.
I was sitting on top of the hill. I'd already gotten a couple of tubs of fish and 2 turkeys, because this is just before Christmas. And me and Rascal had already gotten 2 deer. Well, he went into a defensive circle to see if he can't go get another deer. I was standing there waiting. I had just unloaded my Mini 14 and I laid it back of the truck. I heard a rustling noise in back of me, so I turned around. 20 foot away from me was this Bigfoot, and it was making a humming noise, and all of a sudden, I started getting a real severe headache, and I was getting sick to my stomach, and I got weak. And in the back of my mind, I said, "Oh God, where are you, Rascal?" And about a minute later, all of a sudden, I hear him coming through the woods, tearing, and he was giving a warning bark and everything else. He just gave out a war howl, and he ran over. He jumped over the truck, landed in front of me, and he put himself in between me and this Bigfoot, and he gave out a kind of a warning, kind of a bark whistle, and it was really loud and intense. And me, I was so weak. All I could do is wrap my arms around his leg, right. And I laid my head up against his thigh. And what Rascal did, he gently pushed me back from the truck, and him and this Bigfoot got into one hellacious fight. And the only thing I could figure out, this thing had been hunting, and it was hunting me.
Okay.
And that was scary.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And when I finally recovered and I was barely able to drive, I got back on our gravel road, and I drove us home, but I was driving real slow. Now, Rascal, well, he was looking at the back window, making sure nothing else was following us. And I finally got into the doggone driveway, and I had stopped, put the truck in park and everything. Well, my sister and my girlfriend was looking out the window at us, and I knew they called for Dad and Grandpa to come down and help us out, get the deer and the turkeys and the fish. And when I opened up the driver's side door to get out, I found out I couldn't walk, and I started falling out of the truck, and Rascal caught me and carried me through the garage door, but that was open, and carried me upstairs through the back door. And the girls immediately noticed there was something wrong, and they screamed my name. They said, "Oh my God, what happened?" And I weakly told them what happened. And my dad and Grandpa said, oh Jesus. They said, "Where did this happen?" And I told them, I said, on top of the hill and back of the cornfields, where the two ponds and the creek was. And they started getting worried, and they took off back there, and Rascal took off with them. Now, I was laying on the couch, but I was sick as a dog, and I stayed sick for at least a week and a half. That's how sick I was from that attack.
Yeah.
I don't know what this infrasound shit does, but it made me sick.
Yeah, I had a lady that was very, very sick from infrasound, and she had actually thought she had cancer until she realized that, hey, this is something, this is not an illness, this is caused by Bigfoot in my backyard or on her property. Yeah. People really need to realize that this, infrasound is deadly and dangerous.
It is. See, this is why I call Bigfoot such opportunists, because they'll use weapons like that on us and everything else.
Yeah.
Dogman, for some reason, they won't use infrasound on any of us or anything, because they see it as a defensive measure thing.
Yeah.
But they will use it, but I'm guessing it's rarely.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming back. do me a favor. Don't hang up. I'd like to talk with you. We can set up our next upload. Thank you for coming on again, and I appreciate it. And have a wonderful evening.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you?
I had a wonderful night.
All right, I'm glad. I am sure glad. And stay well. All right. I hope you get some rest because you sound real tired.
Yep.
All right. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. I honestly enjoy talking with Robert. If you guys want to have communication with Robert, like via comment, he is always at our live stream. Robert Sharp, feel free to comment back and forth with him. He absolutely loves it when people ask questions. He has nothing to hide. He's just a super, super nice guy. It was just a really great time talking with him and getting to know him. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this night ending bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and what makes the channel special, a place for Robert and others to share without judgment and with respect. The comment section that you guys have created is just awesome, and I do appreciate it. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. They're dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless.